Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. We'll get started with the presentation. Today we'll be going through part 7 of the Client Script series. Client Script has always been one of CRM's most in-demand topics. It's one of the topics, one of the solutions that is frequently provided whenever anything, a lot of the times whenever a question related to CRM comes up, right? So Client Script is a really fun way to work with the CRM, especially for your users. And today we'll be going through part 7 of this series. We'll be going through custom buttons, which are right now being supported, and the support is being rolled out, and Canvas list view, the support which will start soon. Okay. So this is what we'll be going through in today's presentation. We'll go through a short recap of what we discussed in the previous parts, and then we'll jump into Client Script support for custom buttons, Canvas list view, how to configure them, things to keep in mind before you start working with it, while you're working with it, so that you don't waste time during the implementation. And as always, resources to stay up to date with the updates that the CRM team and the Client Script development team is pushing out regularly. In the previous sessions, in the first session, we saw an introduction to Client Script, and we saw a few simple use cases. So for those of you who are new to Client Script, like the name suggests, it's a script written in JavaScript that runs on the client side. Very simple, right? So the functions that are usually written in Zoho are written in Deluge, but Client Script is a little different. It runs in JavaScript because it's loaded onto the browser on the client side of the user or a portal user who is working on the CRM, right? So these are client scripts written in JavaScript. But client scripts are not limited to things that can be done on the client side. Using client scripts, we can also call deluge functions that are already saved in the CRM. And we'll also be able to manipulate data that's saved in the different modules in your CRM. So the simple use cases that we looked at were stuff like, let's imagine an order is being created, right? Or a new contact or leader is being added into the CRM. When entering the phone number or email address, you can just validate it before it's being saved, right? You don't have to save it and then deal with cleaning the data. So Client Script can help you in simple stuff like that, validating phone numbers, email IDs. For example, if the person accessing a record of a module doesn't have the privilege to access it, those particular fields can be hidden with Client Script, because that hiding needs to be done just on the client side. So that can be done with Client Script. So we saw simple use cases like that in the first session. In the second session, we saw advanced things that can be done with Client Script. For example, widgets can be loaded into the CRM. So you can use Client Script to trigger those widgets. We saw different ways in which you can send emails using Client Script. We saw how you can have third-party integrations and how you can call deluge functions through the Client Script. So we saw those advanced use cases in part 2. Part 3 and 4, we had a couple of our community members who were gracious enough to share their experience, share the ways in which they use Client Script in their day-to-day business and in their use cases. So those were some really nice sessions. In part 5, we took a look at Client Script commands. If you're new to Client Script, Client Scripts are triggered when you're on a particular page, when you're in a particular layout, and when an event happens in a particular field, right? So every single Client Script is linked to these. But Client Script commands, they added a new dimension to Client Script in the sense that you don't have to be linked. The action doesn't have to be done related to one of these. So you can trigger a Client Script irrespective of where you are in the CRM. You don't have to be inside a particular page or have a particular event happen in a particular field. Wherever you are in the CRM, you can trigger a Client Script using commands. And you could also trigger these Client Scripts using keyboard shortcuts. So triggering Client Scripts were made really easy with Client Script commands. In the previous session, part 6, we saw Client Scripts support for subforms. If you missed session 2, we did work with subforms, but we were using widgets to manipulate the data in subforms. But in the last session, we saw Client Script support for subforms where you didn't have to take the long route and implement widgets and all that to work with the data in subforms. We saw that. And we also saw Client Script support for portals. So irrespective of who's accessing the CRM, if they are a user in your CRM, or if you have multiple portals, and whichever portal user is accessing the data, based on that, you'll be able to configure your client script to work based on which portal user is accessing the data, right? So that's what we saw in the previous session. So in today's session, we'll be going through custom buttons and the canvas list view. Buttons are something I'm pretty sure you're familiar with. For example, I have my CRM here. CRM has a list of predefined buttons that already ship with CRM, right? So none of these are added by me. This create order button, or if you go into any different module, you'll have predefined buttons here, right? A custom button, like the name says, you can create the buttons and you define the way in which the button works, right? So these custom buttons can be created in all the standard and the custom modules. And like I said, you have a list of actions that can be done with these buttons, with these custom buttons. For example, if I go into my buttons, so if I create a new button, you'll be able to see a function can be triggered using a button. You can open a widget, invoke a URL, open a web tab. We'll be going through the client script one recently. So there are multiple things that you can configure your custom button to do, right? So you're not limited to the predefined default buttons that ship with the CRM. And of course, these custom buttons can be added to various places. For example, you can add them to the list view, the utility tray, and even inside records in multiple places. We'll take a look at that when we get into the demo, okay? So custom buttons are very simple to understand, but when client scripts get into the picture, custom buttons need to be configured in slightly different ways, right? Which you'll have to keep in mind when you're working with them, or else, like me, when setting up the demo, you might waste a little bit of your time. So if you're new to client scripts have their own section in the settings where you'll go and create your client scripts. But since these client scripts are linked to buttons, you'll have to configure them in the buttons part of the settings, okay? And client scripts, like I said, they are linked to a page or a layout or an event or a field. So based on what type of a field, the value will be passed, okay? But here, based on the button's location, the value will be passed, because the only thing that happens to a button is it gets clicked, right? So depending on where the button is, the button's argument will be contextually relevant, and it will be passed into the client script, which you can use to process your data. And right now we are almost at the end of Q2. So by Q3, we'll have the mobile support as well for client script with custom buttons. So I'll go through the demo, and I've prepared a few use cases, and I'll show you the things that we've discussed. So like I was saying, this is how you create custom buttons. And we have a client script section where here you'll be have to create, where you'll be able to create your client scripts, right? So like I said, the client scripts are related, they are linked to modules, pages, the layouts, and an event, right? Irrespective of what event it is, you'll have to choose the field, and that particular client script that you're configuring will be linked to this set of data, right? But when you're configuring a client script to work with a button, you won't be able to do it here, but you will have to do it through the buttons section. So I'll just create it while I'm showing you. So right now in my orders module, I have 4 orders. And what I'd like to do is, whenever this order is created, I want to just add a note to it, okay? So right now we have only 4 orders, so it's not really hard to click each record, go in and do this, right? But just to do that, I don't want to, click the record, go in, come back out, and I want to minimize the steps that I have to take as much as possible. So like I said, custom buttons can be added in various places. Not only in this page, you can add them into the records as well. So we'll just see simple ways in which we'll be able to do that in this demo. So what I want to do is I want a note button to be added here. So we'll just see how we can do that. So right now I'll just go into the orders module. One more thing to keep in mind, just make sure you're in the correct module, because you might add a button and then when you're refreshing, it may not show up. So that might take a little bit extra time of yours. So let's say the button is add note, okay? And the action that I want is for it to trigger a client script. And the page is in the list page. So here we are in the list page, but I don't want it to be in utility tray, but I want it to be in each record, right? So this is going to be in each record. So I'll just add my code snippet here. Okay. So if you're new to this user interface, this is the client script IDE. Here you'll be able to edit your client script. You'll be able to run it here as well. And if you have any problem or error with this, you have the documentation linked right here. So if you go into this, right? So you have the event dictionary for the different pages and layouts that are supported by client script. So each page and each layout and each field has its own set of functionalities that are supported by client script. So before you try integrating it, make sure you just are up to date with the latest updates with the client script. So you won't have to waste any time here. And here we have the client APIs. Like I said, we have client script is very good at manipulating data on the client side. So you have this documentation here. And like I said, client script is not limited to stuff it can do on the client side, but you also have the web APIs where you can access data that's already stored in the CRM. Okay. So that's the documentation. So let me just save this here. Add note. Okay. Let me just uncomment this context. Like I said, the context changes based on where the custom button is added. So I'll just uncomment this for now. Once I'm done adding the other buttons, I'll just show you how the context differs based on where the custom button is placed. Okay. And okay. So let me just reload this page. Okay. So like I wanted, the custom button has been added to each record in this list. So let's say custom button note, individual note. Okay. So if I go in, you'll see the note has been created, right? Of course, this is a very simple demo. There's not really much difference in the number of steps. You click and go in and type it yourself, or you click the button and type it here and save it. It's pretty much the same. But when you think of it in terms of your own use cases, your own businesses, when you're actually working with serious data with a lot of, which might involve a lot of steps, it's going to make things quite easier. Okay. So this is one way why this can be done. Now, what if I want to do a multi-select and add it here? So if I can have a button placed here, that'll be nice. So we'll do that next. So let me create another button. Let's say add bulk notes. Again, it's going to be client script. This time, again, it's going to be in the list, and I'm going to have it as the mass action menu. So the mass action menu will be showed only when one or more records are selected in the list view, right? The utility menu will be shown irrespective of whether buttons are selected or not. I mean, whether rows are selected or not. So I'll create another client script and another button. I'm sorry. I'll uncomment this context here as well. So let's say add bulk notes. Okay. So the button is created. Let me just reload this page. So as you can see, the record buttons are still there. Now when I select one or more rows, the add bulk notes option comes up. So let me click this. bulk notes. Okay. So now if I go into Olivia's order, you'll see the bulk notes has been created. If I go into the next one, again, you'll see the bulk notes and the same thing again, right? So if you want the same data to be added to multiple fields or based on the record data, you could do this from here as well. Okay. The same thing can be done for the utility tray. It's not very different. Add note, utility tray, and again, this is going to be in the utility menu, right? I'll just paste the same thing because I just want to show you the add note ut. Okay. Okay. So now if you can see the utility tray button has been placed here, right? So let me show you how the context differs when you're working with buttons based on where they are placed. Okay. So like I said, if you're already editing the client script, you can just run it there itself. You don't have to refresh your page and see it live. So this client script was added to the button in the orders page. Okay. So you see that the client script is linked to a button, but like I said, since this is linked to a button, you cannot disable it here because if you do so, the button's functionality would break and nobody wants a broken feature, right? So you won't be able to disable or enable it here. If you want to get rid of this client script, you'll have to get rid of the button. Okay. So I'll just show you, just run this. So this add note is this, right? The single one. So if I say add note, so it shows you the module information and the single record information, right? Because only this add note button can be linked to only one record. Okay. Now, if I select multiple records, I just clear the message. So if I say add bulk notes, you'll see the module information is shown and all the records that are selected are shown, right? And if I try the utility tray, you'll see only the module information is shown. So based on where your button is placed, the context will be passed dynamically, and you can just work with the context directly because you know where the buttons are going to be placed. So you know what context is going to be passed. So there's no confusion. There's no wondering about what will be passed, what might be passed. You can just work with it without any hassles. Okay. So here now we saw how we can add custom buttons outside in this list view. We'll see how a custom button can be added inside, right? So we saw how a custom button can be added to the utility tray. Let's see how we can have it to the record. So here I have another module. Let me go into the courses module. So here I have a course called Client Script and Custom Buttons, and we have a number of students who have signed up for it. We have Charles and Samuel who are learning this course. If you've ever signed up for a course on Udemy or Coursera, whenever there's one of the lessons are being updated, or if a section has been updated to reflect the latest updates for whatever course you're working on, you usually get a notification, right? So let's imagine I want to send these guys a notification, but what I could do is I could click Samuel and see his email and send an email. Like we saw, emails can be sent through client script, so that is easy. But what if I want to make it simple and I want to send emails to all of them here? There's no multi-select option where I can send an email, right? So it will be nice if I can add a custom button here and I can just select the students and send them an email. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to add another custom button. I'll go into my courses module and I'll say send bulk email. Okay. Again, it's going to be a client script. So this time it's going to be in a related list. So in list means in this list, right? Unfortunately, there's only one, but in the list view of the module, When you say in the record, it means inside the record anywhere here, right? These are all the areas of the record. This is the area of the record. But when you're going into this field, so this is a subform, I'm sorry, this is a related list which contains data from a different module. So the data here is not linked to the course module, right? Of course, these are people who have signed up to this course, but these are objects of the students module, right? So now when I say related list, detailed standard view, of course, adding a button makes it easier. It reduces the chance of mistakes. So right now in that same, in the course module, I have two different rated lists. I'm going to choose the students and I'll just configure my client script. I'll again uncomment the context, send email. Okay. So if, okay, it's created, I'll just reload this page. Okay, so like you can see, now there's this multi-select option that's popped up here. And if I choose students, I get this option to send a bulk email. And if I click it, there's a pop-up which loads a template and is ready to send an email. If you're not sure how this can be done, we took a look at this in more detail in the second part. So feel free to check that out. We actually looked at 3 different ways in which you can send emails using client script. So that was a good session. Okay. So now if I can just send emails, I can just select the students and the bulk email will be sent to all of them. I'll just show you how the context differs in this scenario. So I'll just go into my client script and we are in the courses module. Okay. So here, let me just run this. Right. So we have this button show up. And now when I select bulk email, you see the module that show up is the contacts module, because these students are records in the contacts module. While we are in a course record, because this custom button has been added to the related list, which has objects of the contacts module, based on the context, you're getting the contacts module's information. And these records are the record IDs that are shown here will be taking you to the records of these contacts, right? So even though we are in the courses module, based on where the custom button is placed, contextually the context is being passed and the client script works accordingly. Okay. So that's one thing that'll actually be very handy when you're working with custom buttons, especially when you're placing them in different places. Okay. So that's how right now client scripts are supporting custom buttons. Okay. So Canvas list view. Like we already saw, client scripts work with different modules, different layouts, different events and fields. So support for the Canvas list view is almost out, and the rollout will probably start next month. So when you're working with the Canvas list view, the different views that will be supported by client script will be the custom list, the tile, and the table views. For example, if you take, so here I am in the tile view. So you have different events and different views that will be supported by client script when it's finally rolled out, right? So these events can be linked to the page, canvas button, icon, and text. Just like in a normal view, when you can link it to, in a normal detail page, for example, you can link it to a pick list, a button, a checkbox, a text field, whatever. So here in the canvas view, you can link it to the page, to an icon, a button, and text, so on, right? And like I said, the rollout will be starting next month. So these are the list view events, the Canvas list view events that you can take advantage of. The onload is something that was supported for the other views, and now the canvas list view will be supporting it as well. So we'll just take a sneak peek at what you can do with client scripts in the canvas list view. So here I have an orders module. Let me clear the filter. So here we have different orders with different statuses. Okay, so we have the created, shipped, approved, delivered. There's probably something else. Okay, this is canceled also. So we have different statuses here, and we have different shipping speeds as well. Okay, it'll be nice if I can just change the design of this so that it looks different based on what status an order belongs to, right? So here, now that we're not working with buttons, we don't have to go to the button section to create a button and then link it to a client script. We can just create the client script here. So here we do not have, okay, in the orders module, we don't have a client script configured for the list page. We have one for the leads module, but that's not going to cut it for us. So let me create a new script here. So I'm going to say add style. Oops. And this is going to be for, oops, this is going to be for the list page of the orders module. So right now I'm in the tile view. I'll just use the tile view to create this client script, and it's going to be a page event. What I want, as soon as the page loads, I'm just going to trigger this client script to change the background color of the cells based on the status. I just paste my code in. Okay. Very simple code based on the status of a cell. So I'm using this the client-side APIs. I'm getting the list of the data that's listed on the page, and based on the status of each cell, I'm just changing the background color. Okay. One thing that when you're working with client script, I'm sure the experienced ones have been have quite a lot of experience with this. When you're working with the client script, since it's loaded on the client side, you might have to do a little bit of refreshing. Sometimes you might forget that and keep scratching your head why it's not working, but all you might be missing is a hard refresh, right? So now once this page is loaded, you'll see that the cells are colored according to the status of each cell, right? So now I know that the green ones are the ones that are already delivered, and this reddish pinkish one is the cancelled one, right? It just makes things a little bit easier on the eyes. So other than cosmetic stuff, even serious things can be done in the canvas view. So again, I'll show you something that can be done in the canvas list view. I'll turn this apply style off for now. You saw how when I created this new script, I had to go through all the a number of fields that had to be set to make sure this client script worked, right? But that was because I didn't have any clients configured for the list page of the orders module. But now that I have one here, if I just go here and say add script, the CRM will automatically fill it up, right? So you don't have to create a new script and have all these typed out manually, where you have the risk of typing something wrong and wasting your time. So if you just click add script here, all the relevant data will be filled automatically. So here I'll say, okay. So here what I want to do is, based on the shipping speed, I want the orders to be assigned to a particular vendor, right? So George is very good at handling overnight deliveries. He's one of the faster processing vendors that we have. So based on the shipping speed, if it's an overnight delivery, I want it to be automatically assigned to him. So we'll see how many we have already. So based on the shipping speed, okay, we have 7 of them. Some don't have a vendor, and some, like this one, are assigned to other vendors, right? So what I want to do is I want to assign all of these to him. So I'll just go and create a client script. Let me reload this because I turned off the background style one, right? Okay. I'll turn off the filter as well. So this client script that I'm adding is a very simple one again. So I'm just saying assign vendor. And again, it's going to be a page event, which I'm going to run on load. Obviously, this is not something that you'll probably use in your business. As soon as a page loads, you're not going to assign, probably not going to assign jobs directly to somebody, right? Because even if you do a refresh, this is going to run. But just for the sake of showing you what can be done with the client script in the Canvas view, I'll just take this use case. And so I'm going to say assign vendor. Okay. So here what you'll see is I'm getting the list. I'm selecting the records where the shipping speed is equals overnight. And then I'm just showing a confirmation to make sure that we don't do anything hastily. And then I'm just going to assign the vendor to those cells, right? So this is an example of how client script can be used to manipulate data that's already stored in the CRM, right? So this is a web API. So using the CRM's web API, I'm going into the purchase orders module and updating the records with the updated data, right? I'll just close this and I'll refresh this. Is it enabled? Yes, it's enabled. Okay. So before I'll just say not now for now. So like you can see, only the overnight ones are selected because these are the ones to which I want the changes to be done, right? So only the overnight ones have been selected. To make it easier, I just filter them so that only they are visible on the screen. So, oops. So this is going to be the shipment speed and overnight. So this is running again because the page has been refreshed. So here you'll see that we have only these selected, right? Okay. So let me just refresh this page. And since only those are selected, it's just going to select them again. Since only those are filtered, it's just selecting all of them. And if I say yes, assign. So I want this one to be assigned to him and I want this one to be assigned to him, right? So if I say yes, assign. It says added successfully, but I don't see the change here. So I'm probably missing something in my client script. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I was just working on this last minute before the session started. Okay. So I just had commented the page where the client was getting refreshed. So unfortunately, right now, these are already assigned to him because the client script was a success. So I'll just clear this for now. And I'll assign this to somebody else. Okay. So now you can see we have some orders that are not yet assigned and some that are assigned to nil. So if I refresh this page, once the page loads, the client script is going to get triggered. If I say yes, assign, right, you'll see that the page is refreshed and the orders have been successfully reassigned to George. So this is a way in which a client script can be, a client script that's running on your client side can be used to manipulate the data that's already saved on the server side. So when this update comes out, you'll be able to do a lot more with client script in Canvas list view. We really can't wait to get it out for you. So that was Canvas list view. Okay. So keeping up to date. Like I said, probably a week and a half back, custom buttons was supported in like 4 or 5 DCs. Right now, it's at 9 or 10, if I'm not mistaken, right? So the speed the CR team is pushing out these client script updates is really fast. Even I was up to date out of date when I was working with this presentation, and I had to be reminded that by the client script team that some of the data in this presentation was out of date, right? So they are really working hard in bringing out the updates to you guys as soon as possible. So whenever you're working on client script in your CRM, just make sure you're up to date with the documentation. And we also have the Kaizen series. If you're not familiar with the Kaizen series, it's something that the CRM team puts out regularly, focused on things that can be done developer related with the different features in Zoho CRM, right? And the client script series is one of the sub series in the Kaizen series, where, like the name suggests, again, it's just stuff that can be done with the latest updates that come out with client script. A lot of these use cases that I showed you today, I have taken them from the client script Kaizen series and the client script documentation. So even the code you'll be able to find in the code samples in the documentation that the client script team already has compiled. So this is the roadmap of the features. Like I said, custom buttons is almost done. It's almost out in all the DCs, and the canvas list view, the rollout is starting really soon. And we have a lot of things lined up. So as we keep coming up with the updates, we'll be adding more sessions and we'll be bringing those updates to you, so you can use these client script updates in your businesses and in use cases. I actually have a very fun time when I'm working with these use cases, because it makes the CRM very fun for me to work with. So I can only imagine how fun it is going to be, how productive it's going to be when you're working with it in your real businesses with your real-time data, right? So this is what we went through in this session. We saw the new updates with client script, with the support for custom buttons, and the soon to be out support for the canvas list view. We saw how you can configure these things, how you can use them in different places, things that you have to keep in mind before you use them, while you're using them, so that you don't waste time when you're configuring them. We saw a number of use cases in which these can be used. I hope this gave you a few ideas in which you can implement client script in your own businesses. And we also resources that you can use to stay up to date with the latest updates that the CRM team is pumping out. So that's it for today's session from my side.